Sternberg and Team President Brian Auld. Earlier today, Major League Baseball Commissioner Rob Manfred sent a letter to Hillsborough County regarding the proposed ballpark in Ybor City. In response to this letter, Stu will deliver a brief statement, then we will take questions for Stu and Brian. We will not have time for one-on-ones. Stu.
Thanks. Before I say anything, we had some really terrible news last night for baseball and for the Rays family in particular. Jim Hoff, who's been a field coordinator and amongst other things with us for probably about 17 years, and has been in baseball for more than 50 years. An incredible guy in professional baseball. You really wouldn't find a nicer fellow. I see him every spring training, and anybody who's around Jim, I know him in the room, if you've ever come across him, I'm sure you have, respected and really beloved by everybody. He met everybody he met, he treated with respect. And our hearts go out to his family, friends, and everyone who cared for him, and those who know him. It's really going to be a loss for us for Major League Baseball. Hoffy was just an incredible fellow, and we're dealing with that as an organization right now. Thanks for listening in on this today. Commissioner Manfred sent out a letter this morning, and I just want to get Ray's thoughts on this out right now. As you know, we had seen the letter. In December of 2015, we collaborated with the City of St. Petersburg on an agreement to allow us to explore ballpark sites throughout the Tampa Bay region. That agreement provided a very generous 3-year window. It was a very important step in our long-standing pursuit of a new home for the Rays, something we've been trying to do for over 10 years, and I took over the team in 2005, and it really was one of our main initiatives from the beginning. Unfortunately, that window is closing without us achieving that goal. While the momentum and progress are real, we're not close at all to a workable framework. As Commissioner Manfred noted in his response to Hillsborough County, fundamental issues have yet to be adequately addressed. These include, among other things, site control, political approvals, private investor commitments, cost and timing certainty. We've spent thousands of hours and many millions of dollars to make our vision of Ybor ballpark a reality. A ballpark that would bring the excitement of Major League Baseball, would bring the excitement of Major League Baseball and stimulate an energetic and engaged community in Ybor City and the surrounding area. The result certainly wasn't due to a lack of effort by any of the parties involved, and while I am wildly disappointed by the result, I'm not discouraged. Government officials, as well as business and community leaders across Tampa Bay came together in this, particularly Chuck Sykes, Ron, and their 2020 coalition. I want to thank everyone who's been a part of this project, especially the Ybor community, who welcomed us with open arms. I want to also thank our partners in St. Petersburg and Pinellas County, particularly Mayor Rick Kreisman, for their support as we considered locations these past 3 years across Tampa Bay. I'm firmly committed to helping the Rays remain and thrive in Tampa Bay for decades and generations to come. Major League Baseball is a large part of what defines Tampa Bay as a Major League region, and I continue to be enthusiastic about finding a way forward. This is not the announcement I expected to make, yet it's a very promising time for our franchise. I believe the Rays fans and supporters are very proud of their team and organization. We're fresh off a 90-win season, a quite improbable 90-win season, as many of you might have expected before last year. And I'm extraordinarily excited for the start of the 2019 season and very optimistic for what the years ahead will bring. What we try to do is make magic with Rays baseball and games the community, and we're going to continue to do that on a day-to-day basis.
Okay, at this time we will take questions. There's a microphone on each side of the aisle here, so please wait until the microphone reaches you. Mark.
Stu, first of all, are you thus saying that the Ybor project is now dead, given we spoke of it in the past tense, and what is the next step?
This worked well. Thanks. This phase of things right now is? This phase of things right now is, you want to use the term dead, I wouldn't term it in that fashion. We're going to put everything on the table going forward and look at every option available going forward and close nothing off.
In Tampa?
Excuse me?
In Tampa still?
Well, come the end of the year, once the MOU is open after the 3 years we've had, we won't have the opportunity to engage with Tampa unless certain things go on past that.
Is there anyone here who can help with the mic?
That's all right. I
Can
can
you switch
just
something?
Yeah. No, yeah? Here, I'll use both share. That's all right. Yeah, we're good. Hi.
Barry?
Yes.
Microphone behind you, Richard.
Hey, Stu, Barry Forbes. So just to be clear about this, since this obviously is all gone on behind the scenes, just get technically into why the project didn't move forward in the shape that you guys had hoped it would, and if you don't have outside or create a new window to look elsewhere in the area, essentially you're back in the position where you're in the dome until 2030, right?
2027 is our final season, 9 more seasons there.
Yeah.
Look, they said thousands of hours produce a lot of technicalities and all this. There was a letter, which is the main reason we're addressing this today. There was a letter that was written to me, to myself, to the Commissioner, Commissioner Manfred. And Commissioner Manfred was mentioned last week, and he addressed some of the specifics as they were with respect to the letter. A project like this has obviously got an enormous amount of moving pieces to them, and certain thresholds have to be crossed in order to get to the point where you can really start to focus on the smaller items. We have not, together with Hillsborough County, we have not gotten over that threshold enough, considering we had a 3-year window to do this, and the window is coming to a close in just a few short weeks.
So you said you're committed to keeping the team in the Tampa Bay area for the long term, but you get to 2027, and then you have the opportunity to go elsewhere. What do you think is the reality with as long as you've worked on the stadium situation there?
Yeah, right now, we put all the energy and focus into getting this stadium done. We know and we believed it was something that could have done wonders for Ybor. We have a Major League Baseball team in an area, as we've seen in places like Washington and Colorado and San Diego. Many of these baseball people, obviously, we know what goes on. And you talk to individuals in any of those cities. So we have a vision for what that can do and what it would do, specifically for Ybor and as a whole for Tampa Bay. We don't have necessarily a plan B right now. We tried with this with sincerity back in 2007 and 8. We've done it now for the past 3 years. Using the baseball term, you could say we've had 2 strikes. We're at 2 strikes right now. But we're committed to getting at it, and we're going to regroup right now, go back to the drawing board, and I would imagine come the new year, try to figure things out. We're a pretty resourceful group, pretty determined group, and we're going to try to use all those powers we have and all that intuition and everything else that you might think of to get something done in Tampa Bay. The important thing is that I am convinced and still am convinced that it could be a great thing for the area, and I'm committed to getting something done. But obviously, I can't do this alone. It's going to be for people whichever side of the bay in the whole region to get it done.
As Stuart Black's USA Today, do you get the sense there would be a political climate to create another window similar to the 3-year one we just enjoyed to live around Tampa and Hillsborough, or do you think that's slammed shut, or will that ever pop over again?
Yeah, I never like to think of never as an answer if it makes sense. And the nice thing is, Mayor Kreisman and his leadership, the City Council, permitted this to happen because they saw the importance and they know the importance of baseball to have in their midst. They love to have it in St. Petersburg, and Pinellas County has been very supportive of that. They've been on the record for that. But having said that, they've been focused on making sure the team had the best opportunity to stay here. So we don't shut anything off, and wherever it happens, the political will, I think, has been good to this point, and I would like to think it would continue because we've got good partners on both sides of that.
So Steve, first, just to clarify, so you don't see any merit at this point in asking for an extension on this current window? You don't plan to do that?
No. Something new could develop. It could be a new window or whatever you want to call it. I haven't even thought past where we are right now. We've had a long time. 3 years is a long time. The run-up to the 3 years, getting there, there was a lot of discussion that went into that. So sort of the bell rang in January of 2016. It's 2015. We just have not made enough progress to this point to be able to ask for an extension. And quite frankly, St. Petersburg has waited a long time for this and been very open and patient about it. But we'll see what the future brings, whether it's days, months, or weeks.
Yeah, follow over to one. In the past, the indications have been that rebuilding in St. Petersburg would not be an appealing option. Would you now, or building a new stadium in St. Petersburg, would you now be more open to that than maybe you had been in the past, or another site in Pinellas County?
Well, what I've been clear about since the beginning was trying to find a pinpoint perfect spot in Tampa Bay. The market itself is it's not one of the top markets in Major League Baseball or football or any of the other sports. And it's to try to find the right spot. We believe we have found the right spot. We look throughout a number of areas, whether it's Pinellas, St. Petersburg. Things change over time, and we're going to explore whatever options available to us.
And then one further question is, obviously this is a financial puzzle of which the team is going to be part of. You'd indicated at one point previously $150 million, and then you said more than that. Based on what you learned through this process, what is a realistic number that the team can contribute to this stadium, wherever it gets built?
I do not have an answer to that at this point. We haven't fully fleshed things out. Part of that is getting through the process, getting more of the interest and excitement, especially at the corporate level and the business level. Look, we're looking at things happen in different markets. Things haven't fully fleshed out to this point. We've got an expansion team was awarded in Seattle recently for hockey, and season ticket commitments and all those things. We haven't had that happen here yet, right? Things happen in other areas where there's a football stadium going on, over here. And I can't say I know many of the specifics, but their naming rights and other corporate partners have committed to things. The 2020 group, Chuck and Ron and everybody, well, they've done a great job trying to drum up support. Part of continuing that support is seeing what the plan looks like. We unveiled what we thought was an extraordinary stadium, an extraordinary site. But I think if we had gotten further along with that, we would have been able to answer that question better, knowing what exactly was going to be involved to get this thing built.
So just the final thing on that, and the 50-50 plan that was floated where they pay $450 and you pay $450 was not going to be feasible.
I can make a case where and it's not to sound flippant about it, but we really can't afford to put much of anything in. I can make a case in certain markets you can fund an entire stadium. 50-50, 40-60, 30-70, 67-33, these are all numbers that go along. How the things get financed, ancillary development issues, market to market, there are just too many variables involved to just put a number on it right away. And I'd love nothing more than to sit here and say that we have enough season tickets sold, we have enough corporate support, we have enough naming rights and cornerstone partners to say that we can do 70% or 30% or 50%, whatever that number lands at. But we don't have enough information to pass that along. And even if we were right now, the project hasn't moved along enough to be able to commit. We don't even know what the dollars look like relative to acquisition of the site. Certain specifics that you would refer to some of the technical aspects. There's a power station that's nearby, other things that needed to get done to really fully understand the full cost of the stadium.
In your mind, if things get resolved, what is the earliest date that the new facility could open?
That's a great question. We had planned this as for 2023 ballpark first pitch. It became clear to us with a number of the milestones not being hit a couple of months ago that this was going to extend until the 2024 season. Each season that moves along, things get more expensive. Other particulars come into play as well. So right now, I mean, if if you snap your fingers and everything happened tomorrow, it would be 2024, and the clock is ticking on that right now.
Yeah, you had a kind of an opportunity to take the temperature of the corporate community for this process. How confident are you, I guess, that sector will ultimately, there will be enough support there to make the stadium happen for you, especially given that costs will continue to rise the longer that it takes?
Well, again, that impacts what our contribution would be. So we have sort of a base level of an understanding of where we think it could be. It's along those lines right now, which is where we are, which informed a bit a couple of years ago when I considered what our contribution could be. Things had sort of picked up a little bit. The 2020 group had done some work. We put a little more pencil to paper, and we look at ourselves now with a good deal north of where we thought we were a couple of years ago. And as that number changes or increases, or as I said, season tickets and the corporate side of it, it'll be a number in flux going forward. Interest rate environment has changed over the last couple of years. The short-term rates have gone up a little bit. Financing costs changed.
Basically, I mean, if you look at, I mean, every community is different, but, the new ballpark in Arlington is over $1 billion. When you're looking at the A's, they're talking about it as being part of a rebuild that would include the Coliseum area. The football stadium in Inglewood is being paid for a lot by ancillary building around it. It's over a $3 billion project. Is that the way you envision it? Because it doesn't seem like standalone ballparks can be built anymore at that price without having the business around it. I think maybe even Atlanta created that market with the new stadium there.
It's certainly a large part of it. We are not landowners. We're not developers. We would certainly be open to using development type of funds to help fund the ballpark. Part of the process and the plan that was in place here is to try to develop and put a district in place in Tampa Bay and take some of those tax revenues that were the incremental tax revenues, because it's an area, quite frankly, right now, if you're over there, there's just not much there. It's not like we're taking an extraordinary number of existing businesses that are tax paying and turning it into a ballpark. Quite the opposite. It would be an area that is not paying any taxes, or very little at this point, and ideally build up all the area around it and use a lot of that funding to help craft a ballpark. The next leg of it is obviously tickets and corporate support. And both of those things go a long way to getting it done. You're right. I mean, the cost of these things keep going up. And, any of the ones you refer to, over $1 billion or whatnot. And those were things that were planned a few years back. Every year the cost has been going up 4 to 7%. So when we talk about the number that we did, which we thought we were very judicious with, it was in 2023 type of dollars, not today dollars, right? If we had started this so many years ago, it would have been less. We also need a roof, right? A number of places don't necessarily need a roof. But I can assure you that when it gets done, and it will get done, it's going to be done in the most cost-effective manner possible.
Brian, I guess maybe to ask you, where do you think you'll now look? I mean, you've had lists and sites proposed and suggestions, and are you limited to Pinellas County at this point?
We are certainly bound by the terms of our use agreement, but everything's back on the table. And as we've been at this for over 10 years now, we'll continue to take the same approach that we have over that time. Stu referenced when it was resourceful growth. We get as creative as we possibly can. We'll work with all the partners that we can to make this thing a reality. While today is certainly disappointing and represents a bit of a setback, we have great partners on both sides of the bay that have shown a willingness and eagerness to get this resolved. And both sides have a lot to gain from getting resolved, regardless of where the ultimate location is. And we're going to lean on that to the degree that we can. But obviously, we will abide by the use agreement.
And then, Stu, you alluded to where you feel on this right now. Is there any scenario where you see the team not staying in the Tampa Bay area through the 2027 term at the Trop? And also, does this imperil, how much does this imperil the future of baseball long-term in the Tampa Bay area?
I envision, look, I said initially when we first came in, I think it odds are that we will be playing closer to that date, if not to that date. But regardless of that, we will have to have it figured out where our next home will be. Ideally within Tampa Bay. I'm committed to doing it in Tampa Bay. But as you know, right now we're looking at, as we referred to, 2024, right? It's not that far past that to get to 27. So we've got a couple of years to figure it out. We've got to know whether the 2028 season will definitively be played over the next few years. We had a long window to get to that point, meaning 15 years, and that's collapsed now. We've only got a few years left to really definitively get it done as a sort of a third strike.
So if not, then you would start looking at other sites outside of the area if you don't find a solution in the next couple of years?
When you say that?
If in the next couple of years you don't find a solution, you would then start looking at sites outside the area?
Well, we're going to continue to look in Tampa Bay, and we're going to put all our efforts toward that. One way or another, we need to figure out where the team is going to be in 2028, if not sooner. Ideally sooner, but absolutely by 2028. You know, we could be sitting here a few years and say, well, why don't you ask St. Pete for an extension for another year, like we're talking about. They've got to sort of get on with their lives as well. Ideally, with Major League Baseball in Tampa Bay, there are 80 acres that we're sitting on. The area has been bustling and moving along nicely. The mayor and the city council, you know, it's been a wonderful area. We've been supportive of the mayor, and we're really proud to call it our home. But by the same token, I would imagine that they want to start to figure out what development rights they need to do for their 80 acres. Right now, we need them to support parking and other things that we need to do for baseball.
Hey Stu, Alan Sneller, LPSportsBiz.com. Good to see you.
Good to see you, Ron.
Have you identified your funding source for the Ybor City site? Where's the public money coming from in that project?
Well, the funding source we can identify are Tampa Bay Rays. The funding source for the public side of it is up to the public, is up to the people that are public officials involved and who've been involved right now. It's been indicated through the most recent letter that it's in the Tampa Sports Authority's domain to try to figure that out. Tampa and Hillsborough has been working for the past 3 years on that exact question, so it's probably best directed towards them.
Who exactly would be the partnership with? The county, the Tampa Bay, the authority? Who exactly is the public side of this?
Well, the contemplation would be with the county, being facilitated by the Tampa Sports Authority and the city's involvement as well, because all three of these, especially the city and county, are not just imperative, but it has to get done with both of them when they're involved.
Any other questions? Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you. Thanks for all.